in my head. DeGrom, what's it like witnessing him pitching?
It's
when he's at
I'm gonna bring this. I'm great. I'm glad you asked me this question because this is gonna bring this full circle back to a thing we talked about like 4 hours ago. How much do I get paid for this, by the way? What was the rate? What was the rate per hour we negotiated?
It's a 5-cent deposit in Massachusetts.
Watching DeGrom pitch is probably the most special thing I've ever seen in baseball. And we played with a league MVP. We played with some really, really good players.
David Price was there. Stroman was there. Burley was there.
I'm talking about. I mean, we witnessed. We in some small way were a part of him winning an MVP. Like you scored runs for him, you drove him in. Like we watched the greatest player in the American League that given year go out there and perform. And the expectations for him every time he stepped up was like he's going to get it done. And more times than not, he did. But Jacob DeGrom is, in my opinion, the greatest pitcher of my generation and maybe of all time. I think it may be proven over time if he gets back and healthy. Maybe he won't go down as the greatest pitcher of all time. I think he will go down as the most dominant stretch of pitching over the course of his time. Because I don't think he obviously got a little bit later start in his career, but I think his window of 10 to 12 years that he's going to put together will be the most dominant of all time.
He's like Pedro prime, Randy Johnson prime, Verlander prime.
Look at the numbers. I think what makes it so special to watch every time is every time he steps on the mound, you're like, he can't be that dominant again today. He's got to be human. He's going to give up some runs. He's not going to strike everyone out. Guys are going to figure him out. It just doesn't happen. I've become very good friends with Jake, and I've got a very good relationship with him, and we are locker mates. And recently he got a couple briefcases delivered to his locker. We're like, what the hell are these? So he opens them up, and it's American League pitcher of April, American League pitcher of May. And I like to fuck around with Jake, and I'm like, let me look at your numbers, right? Like it couldn't have been that good, right? You haven't even pitched this year, dude. You haven't even pitched. Like we all just get like you sitting on your numbers, the typical stuff. We're like, and you look it up, and you're like Jake, look, this shit wasn't that good. You were 0-2 in April with a .47 ERA and like 75 strikeouts.
I don't know how he loses game. Like he loses.
Well, that's like we always joke around. And I'm like, dude, you were 0-2 because you gave up one unearned run, you gave up a solo homer,
that's a crazy
and
shit.
we lost one. His second game of the year against Miami, he went 8 innings, gave up 1 run, struck out 16 or 14, and he lost. Yeah. We didn't score any runs that game, so he was 0-1 there. And there was another game like he gave up like 2 unearned runs, and we maybe scored 1 run. He was 0-2 with a .47.
I forgot about unearned runs.
But he's just.
Would you say?
What I want to bring back full circle is we always talk about like we talked about earlier, like when you're facing these elite pitchers, you're like so overly concerned about like the name on the back of the jersey. I've only faced Jake one time. He started one game. I had 3 at-bats off of him. I obviously knew who Jacob DeGrom was, but this was the year I got traded from Toronto to San Francisco. So I wasn't like that familiar with him. I obviously knew who Jake was. I've seen him on TV and stuff. I know he probably had a Cy Young at that point, but he wasn't like a guy that I focused a lot of time and energy on because I knew the chances of facing him weren't very high. I was more concerned about, the guys in the American League East. So long story short, it's on my phone. I send it to him every 4 or 5 days, maybe like every 10 days. I send him my double a hit off of him. But there's no freaking way in hell I would ever got a hit off this guy if I was his teammate. If I had to face him like next year or 2 years or 3 years from now, there's no fucking chance I'd ever hit this guy because I've witnessed it. I've seen him. Like I've seen him up close, but like the fact that I was still a little bit naive.
He was human.
Yeah. The fact that I like was naive to like him and like what he had accomplished. I'm like, Cy Young winner. I've faced Scherzer.
Scherzer's in the books.
I faced Price. Like I faced these guys before. I'm like, But now that I've seen it day in and day out,
It's awesome.
I've been in the dugout, I've been in the outfield and watched him do it.
This is
That is the one name. Like
It's
if
my
I had to
favorite
face him,
story
I will be. I like. There's no shot in hell. But that's why I keep that hit on my phone and I send it to him. Like I'll send it to him right now, and he'll probably say, his answer will be like, "I wasn't very good at 19," and I'll look it up and it's like, "Oh yeah, you had a 1.97 ERA. You were a little closer to 2 that year, bud."
a 197
Yeah.
in a generation where
Yeah.
like, nobody has sub 3.
Yeah,
It's crazy. It's crazy how good he is.
I was just at like, how hard do you think that ball was hit? I'm like 150.
Do you think do you think he's the best at matching stuff in pitching ever? Like, and like in today, like, because there's a lot of guys that can throw.
What do you mean in terms of matching?
Like, I think the way I describe him when people I'm like, he is a pitcher who has ridiculous stuff. Like, you know what I mean? He's
And
not just
Jake has, first of all, ridiculous God-given ability and a ridiculous arm. Jake also has the most unbelievably pure mechanics you've ever seen. Those were not God-given. Those were taught. Those were developed. Those are something he still works on. And he still, he hasn't been throwing, like he's trying to get himself back, but like he is very aware of, what his body needs to do in space. And he's taught Stroman a lot. And Stroman's a very aware guy, but like Stroman has learned a lot from being around Jake. And he talks about how he wants to feel his spike come up like his calf, and he wants to feel like this. And I think what makes him so good, aside from his gifts and the ability to throw so hard, is he repeats his mechanics better than anyone in the game. So like if the more you repeat something, he's going to be able to execute more pitches over the course of a game. If he's throwing 100 pitches, he's probably going to execute 90 of them. And the 10 he misses is shit so good anyway that guys don't hit it anyway.
So he's a pitcher who has stuff.
And Jake. I mean, there's probably guys out there that are probably better pitchers because they don't have as good stuff and they know how to manipulate and use all the quadrants of the zone. But Jake is just so dominant. Like, he throws 3 pitches and once in a while he'll throw out a curveball just because he fucking wants to. It's the 78th pitch of the game. He hasn't thrown one. He's like, this sounds like fun. I'm going to punch you out with this. It'll be the only one I throw. And I haven't thrown it in 4 bullpens, but no, shake. Curveball? Okay, we'll see how this goes. Punchy. Just because it's fun. Just because it's fun.
Literally my favorite story.
Just because he's fun.
I saw him pitch in the All-Star game in 2015, and I was up in the third deck, left of the third base line, and the angle he creates, he was on like it was just different. Everything he just like catapults down the mound, and it's so explosive. It was.
You're in the world, like you understand.
All-Star game, it's all the best pitchers.
What makes Jake?
His stuff was so explosive, it didn't even make sense.
What makes Jake so unique is he throws from such a low arm slot that he can create vertical ride and what's the opposite of not horizontal, but like vertical.
He can ride it up or he can cut it down.
Yeah, he can create like the most elite ride when he wants to go up in the zone, and he can create so much angle down that a hitter is now having to cover such a big.
Yeah, I'm just glad.
How far above the ball you have to swing against him?
I'll send you the video. You can check it out. The shit was right on plane. The one I got.
Hey,
But here's the funny thing. I talk about how like, hey, there's no shot in hell, but I like to talk shit to him because we become very good friends. So I'm like, hey, if I'm back next year in spring training, like I'm gonna take you deep. And all he talks about, because it's not a secret. He really only throws to one side of the plate. Like he doesn't have to throw to the other side of the plate. And I'm like, I'm just gonna dive out there. I'm gonna fucking click your stuff, put it in left field seats. He talks about hitting me, and I'm like, I really hope I don't have to face him in spring. Like, one, I hope we're teammates again next year. But I'm like, shit, if I actually have to line up back there, like I'm gonna be so scared. And it's
all gonna work out.
And it's not scary in the sense that like he's not gonna hit me. It's just his stuff is so good, and like he's probably gonna punch me out. But it's like I don't want to hear him. I don't want to have to talk shit for like
built it up.
I don't want to have to talk shit for like 6-7 months. I got a game every day.
No, it's easier.
Ball tracking day.
You are winning the relationship right now. You know that, right? Like you're winning the relationship.
Like, because my 1 for 3 with the double.
You're 1 for 3 with the double. You're winning the relationship. Yeah. So like your shit.
Hall of Fame.
You want to hear another great Jacob DeGrom? I guess it's not a story. This is just Jake in a nutshell. Jake loves pitching. Jake doesn't like the 4 days in between pitching a whole lot, but he really loves competing and loves pitching. But Jake is like such a chill, down to earth guy that Jake, like, hey Jake, what do you do with your Cy Youngs? And he shows me a picture, and it's similar to like your car, how it's kind of a mess, but this is his hunting truck, and it's like he's got like bottles and stuff on his passenger seat, and then you kind of move the stuff out. You see his Cy Young sitting in his hunting truck
in the car.
That's just one of his many, but it's just he's got his Cy Young sitting
And
in his
yes,
hunting
my
truck.
car is currently a mess.
I think the baseball world, I think we got robbed of witnessing something that was going to be historic this year, because I think watching him this year, talking to guys like Stroman that had been with him, last year, talking to our pitching coach, knowing Jake and talking to Jake, he truly believes that he was the best version of himself this year, which is hard to imagine because he has 2 Cy Youngs. He had a 1.78 ERA 1 year, and he truly believed that this was going to be his best year. Wow. And I think we got robbed from it. I think he would have done something historic. He was definitely on pace for 300 punchies, but I don't think having like a sub 1.5 ERA was out of the question. How many wins he would have had, I don't know.
I think
that would have came down to how much we would have hit. But I think he legitimately had a chance to win his third, which I don't know if he retired after that. I got to think he's got to be in the Hall of Fame if you win 3. I mean, I think he's got a case at this point, even though he doesn't have that longevity. But I think you got 2. I think you got 2 Cy Youngs. I think you got a place in the Hall of Fame.